Next time on Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
A returned purse is leads to that, but so I forgot the Grand Negus.
Okay,
what's that actor's name?
That's Wallace Shawn of My Dinner with Andre fame.
My Dinner with Andre, and wasn't he in the Princess Bride as well?
I don't think that word means what you think it does.
Why are you doing that?
Making sure nobody's follow us.
That would be inconceivable.
Despite what you think, you will be caught. And when you are, the prince will see you all hanged.
You're sure nobody's follow us?
As I told you, it would be absolutely, totally, and in all other ways, inconceivable. No one in Gelder knows what we've done. And no one in Florin could have gotten here so fast.
He's climbing the rope. And he's gaining on us.
Inconceivable. Faster!
I thought I was going faster. You got very good arms.
He didn't fall? Inconceivable.
You keep using the word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
Inconceivable! Give her to me. Catch up with us quickly.
What did I do?
Finish him. Finish him. Your way.
Oh, good. My way. Thank you, Nzedi.
What, Grand Negus?
No, that's from The Princess Bride. Yes. Oh, my God.
And now the conclusion.
The wormhole does bring them our way, doesn't it?
Everyone wants a piece of the new frontier.
And I'm sure you've already tried to sell it to a few.
You don't know what any of this is about, do you? You just don't get it.
Okay, I'm the first to admit it's been a dry spell, so I want you to lube up your lobes and get ready for Audio Umox. Oh my gosh. Back. This is episode 13. My goodness.
13. Lucky 13.
This is, hey, ladies and gentlemen, citizens of the Federation and beyond, I am Simon Van Gelder, and I am joined as ever by my erstwhile co-host,
Captain John Christopher.
Captain John Christopher, and you are listening to Audio Umox, the preeminent Deep Space Nine podcast. I don't care what those dudes from Next Gen say, by the way. They're getting ready. They're almost finished with the Next Generation. They are nipping at our heels, and they do 2 a week, so we're going to have to hurry. But
we got some work ahead of us.
Yeah, I don't care what they say. We can be almost as funny with fewer F-bombs and still own the DS9 territory by the wormhole. So that's how I feel.
Right.
Can I just I know it's unlike me to, hog the conversation, but I just want to apologize to our listeners and to you, John. The reason we have had a pretty spotty summer is me. I have had a lot of challenges personally and at work. Now, the personal challenges I don't apologize for. The work ones I do. But long story short, as I have my own business, and I signed some clients this summer that shouldn't have, but did pretty well suck up every extra moment of my time, and not only my work day, but like most of my personal life. They basically acquired the real estate between my work life and my personal life, and that's one reason why I've not been available to record. So I wanted to apologize.
No apologies necessary, my friend. And I obviously, having started a new job in the past 100 days or so myself, I've been challenged as well from a time perspective. But we're both committed. We're ready to dive back into this and hopefully entertain some friends and enjoy reliving some of these old episodes.
Well, speaking of reliving, and thank you, by the way, for your forbearance, but guess what I did last night? I went to the 35th anniversary Fathom event screening of Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, a.k.a.
Oh my gosh.
the Citizen Kane of Star Trek movies. I went last night, and I was transported back to that young man I was in junior high, sitting in a theater, in a darkened theater, watching the most incredible Star Trek experience, and one of the, frankly, Star Trek aside, best movies I've seen in my entire life. A fantastic film, and I'm pleased to tell you, I went with a friend who's about 9 years younger than me, and he had never, ever seen an original series film in the theater.
Oh, wow.
And I'm pleased to tell you that, and he wasn't being kind to me because he's not that type of friend who's like, oh, I'll just tell you which one here. He was like, I can see why this is such a moving film for you in so many ways.
Sure.
It was predicated, the event, the movie started, though, by the way, with about a 10 or 12-minute interview with William Shatner.
Yeah.
And most of the stuff he related I knew already because I'm a pretty, as you may know, heavy Trekker. But
sure.
It was great that he acknowledged so many of the wonderful things. There were a couple things he said that I wasn't 100% invested in or sure about, including the fact that Ricardo Montalban, Khan,
yes,
or apparently,
I thought you were going to do a Fantasy Island drop in. Actually,
that would be even funnier. So maybe.
Or him saying Corinthian leather. Do a Chrysler Cordoba commercial.
Oh my God.
I know my own needs. And what I need from an automobile, I know I get from this new Cordoba. I could ask for nothing beyond the quality of Cordoba's workmanship, the tastefulness of its appearance. I request nothing beyond the thickly cushioned luxury of seats available even in soft Corinthian leather. Yet it is on the highway where Cordoba best answers my demands. I have much more in this small Chrysler than great comfort at a most pleasant price. I have great confidence, for which there can be no price. In Cordoba, I have what I need.
Italian cows. You can't beat Italian cows for your car seat. When you're sliding across those making a fart sound in the summer, when you come back from the swimming pool, you can't beat an Italian cow. No, but he had related that back in 1967, where in Space Seed, the episode of Star Trek, the original series that was actually the seed for Wrath of Khan, Shatner talked about how he had, when he was a teenager, he had gone, because he grew up in Toronto, I believe it's Toronto, and he grew up, so that's not far from New York City. And his parents had taken him into town in New York City a lot to see Broadway shows, and in one show he had seen an actor, and he said, it's funny that this male actor so captivated me because he wasn't even the lead, but he was a dancer in the corps for a Broadway show, and it was Ricardo Montalban. And Shatner was so taken with him, he remembered him. And he followed his career a little bit. And then when Montalban showed up, obviously on set to do Space Seed, he was dismayed to see that Montalban used a cane in 1967.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Well, he said, Ricardo, I'm so sorry. What's wrong? Why do you need a cane? He said, I have fallen off my horse. I am fine. Well, whether that was the case or that was just something that led to it, but apparently Montalban, I did not know this, was plagued with lower body or leg issues most of his adult life since the late 60s. And by the time he did Wrath of Khan, he used a walker.
Oh, wow.
Did you know that?
No, I had no idea.
Yeah,
I had no idea.
Shat said that he used a walker, and I
Wow.
mean, he could get along without it, but he needed it. You know what I mean? It's like he didn't need it for every step he took, but in general,
Right,
he had some
right.
severe. So I don't know if his hips gave out, or
So they did a Floyd the Barber on him for Wrath of Khan,
I'm
the
not
movie.
sure I get that. I mean, I know who Floyd the Barber was. What am I missing?
He suffered from polio. So all the scenes in the Andy Griffith Show, he's either at first he was leaned up against the chair, standing still, but he couldn't walk.
Oh my word!
And then later he was always sitting down, reading a paper or doing something. But they never admitted that he had suffered from polio and was unable to walk. Yeah, Floyd the Barber.
Much like President Roosevelt.
Exactly.
They hit it.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
Well, so I'm watching. So I have an eye on. Now I've seen Wrath of Khan since I saw it first as a teenager, all the way till.
Sure.
I've seen
Because
it
there was
so
a
many times.
VHS release, there was the laser disc release, there was the beta release, there was the DVD release,
And the director's cut,
the 25th anniversary, the 30th, and now the 35th.
Right, and so I had an eye. I watched to see how often you see Khan walk in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
You see Khan take about 4 steps in the whole film.
Wow.
Yeah. I think the most he moved is when Joachim was killed or seriously wounded and then died from a piece of debris after Captain Kirk in the end blows the hell out of their bridge. He throws a big, huge styrofoam brick of shit off of Joachim's body, and he says, "I will avenge you." And you see him take a few steps, but that's it. You don't see him run.
Yeah.
Well, I had read that earlier scripts in the movie, because you know what? Khan and Kirk never face off physically in that movie.
Right.
It's all through screens. It's all through ships. One of the original scripts had them having a sword fight or a duel of some sort.
Some kind of hand-to-hand combat.
Like the original movie. Or the original TV show episode, Spacey. So it never happened. So it's just fascinating to see that. And it's also Jimmy Doohan, who played Scotty. I read that back in the 80s said that it was a crime that Montalban had not been nominated for Best Supporting Actor for an Oscar for this. And I thought, I can see where yes, and I can see where no, but you know what?
Right.
Considering some of the people who've won a Best Supporting Actor nomination and win, yeah, absolutely, I can see.
Well, and I think in this era, science fiction and that genre has a great deal more respect.
Yes.
I think at that time you could get makeup, maybe.
Yeah.
You could get costume design,
special
effects or sound or original score, but yeah, the acting it just did not get serious.
It was Dangerfield
accolades. Yeah. No respect. Man.
No respect. And it's a shame. And I've read From the Bridge, which director and writer of this episode or this movie, Nicholas Meyer, did, his memoir of making Wrath of Khan, and he had said to Ricardo at one point, I knew this from memory, I'm not reading this. He said something along the lines of, "Ricardo, my God, man, it's a shame that you never did Lear. You would have been brilliant." And a lot of Khan is King Lear, and Moby Dick,
right, sure,
he's Ahab,
sure.
he's Lear, he's all these. And he said, and basically, I'm just paraphrasing, but Montalban was very wistful and said, "Oh, but that just wasn't the way," because he was an Hispanic, and there was no way an Hispanic was going to do Lear. So Khan may have been the closest Ricardo ever got to being King Lear. It was a transcendent role for him. He could do Mr. Rourke in his sleep. But this was a role he could really put his teeth into. We could go on and we could go on. I will tell you, though, I was transported, pardon the pun, watching this back to being a teenager in so many ways. It's funny because knowing that the first Star Trek movie had like a $46 million budget, which back then would have been I don't know how many inflation dollars you do the
Sure.
math. And then for the Star Trek 2, Star Trek 1 did fine, but they were about ready to say you're done. But the wife of the then head of the studio said, "You've got to do another one. I love Star Trek." So he did it, and he brought in a television producer, Harv Bennett, and he said, "Okay, I need you to be able to do this, but I need you to do it on a television budget." So he says, "Okay, give me $10 million." So they basically made Star Trek 2 for $11 million, which is about a fourth of what the first movie was.
Wow.
Yeah, and it blew the doors off of it in so many ways comparatively. And
sure.
So it was a
great story.
Tremendous story. You know what? I trace so much of my my young adulthood to that movie and the way that it encapsulated the friendship of Spock and Kirk and McCoy,
Sure.
and of course that translates, I think, to where I am with you, my friend, and other friends,
Sure.
where you become, where people who may not be blood become brothers or sisters anyway, and so I tracked my ancestry back to Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, and it was a beautiful experience.
Awesome. Yeah. So, speaking of, genetically superior beings, I did my ancestry.com.
What?
I did my, I spit in a cup and did my DNA genetic history test on my lineage, if you will, and so actually found out where all my most of my family is from. So it was very interesting. Have you done one of these?
No, I haven't. And by the way, spit in a cup, is that a euphemism?
No, you literally. So instead of swabbing, now they send you a kit. You spit in this little vial, add some solution to it so it stabilizes it. You cap it, you tag it, you register it online, you mail it to them. They give you a prepaid mailing box. You send it to them, and a few weeks later, they tell you everything they can find out about your history based on your DNA.
Before we move forward,
yes,
can I ask what prompted you to do this?
Some of it was just an interest in my history. There's some blank pieces of that puzzle. My mom's side of the family is has traced ancestry pretty far back, but on my father's side, not so much, and not a lot of connections there. So there was some mystery to me, and then just always just interested in where I've come from. I know my family name has some history and roots, but to know deeper where I come from, I find that very intriguing. And
well, do you want to share? Do you want to share,
sure.
Or is it too personal?
No. I mean, nothing. Too shocking. Some interesting things. So,
if you're related to Trump, I don't want to know.
It doesn't give me specific names.
Oh, good, very good.
Just some. There now, they did connect me with some people who I may be related to. So online,
it's not me, is it?
It's not. But there are other people who have taken the test where genetic markers say that we are close enough matches that we're probably related. So if we can get together and connect our family trees, we might be able to tell a larger story. So that's interesting. So at the high level, I've only had this a day, so I haven't been able to really dig deep into those types of things. But it just gives regions of my lineage. So, and it goes back before immigration to the U.S. because I do not have any Native American heritage. So I am 29% from Great Britain, which is Scotland, Wales, and England.
And also that would include
It does not
Cornwall.
include Ireland. It doesn't
Cornwall.
include Ireland.
And
though.
Cornwall. Cornish.
Cornish, yes. Game hens.
There you go.
Western European is 21%.
Would that be German or?
Yeah, Germanic, French. That also includes Belgium, Luxembourg, Liechtenstein. Several of those Western European Germanic countries.
Nice.
Ireland. So back to the UK. That's 21%. So I'm 50% is from the UK if you combine Ireland and Great Britain together, and then it drops off to Eastern Europe, which is 15%. Then European Jewish, which is more lineage specific, but not necessarily geographic specific, because they were in close knit cultures, but typically remain separated from others within those regions. So there were little family groups throughout all of Europe, but they were all traced back to that original Jewish heritage. Then a trace of about 5% from Italy and Greece, and then about 1% from Scandinavia. So pretty much all Europe.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing the Scandinavian is some Viking came across to England and
literally
went on a blind date.
Are you surprised by any of the results?
The percentage of the European Jewish being that high is a little surprising. Because I think that comes from my father's side,
right,
and that comes from Eastern Europe than the Western Europe. Other than that, I mean, no big shocker there. So
are you? If I'm understanding, are you one of the tribes of? Are you a Hebrew? Part of the Hebrew?
Apparently, yes.
Wow.
Apparently, yes. Yeah.
That's great.
Who knew?
You have such a rich ancestral background.
Yeah, well, I mean, pretty rich, for Western for Europe. I mean, there's not much. There's 0 Asian, 0 Native American, 0 African, 0 Middle Eastern. So it's really focused on primarily Western Europe and the UK, and then a nice swath of Eastern Europe.
I would say German, Irish, maybe a little bit of the main UK.
Right.
I would not. Yeah. I would never have said Scandinavian, and I would never have said necessarily.
It's 1%. It was enough to affect my eye color, probably.
Because you have Captain Christopher. You have blue eyes.
Blue steel, man. The blue steel. Actually, they change colors. They go from gray to blue. Occasionally, they'll lean a little green, depending on.
So when you're mad, what color are they?
You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
Mr. McGee, don't make me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
It's funny because I have very dark brown eyes, but when I'm really angry, my eyes I'm told are black, and it's like, well, that's because the pupil expands, and you're just seeing the thing. But still, people are like, "Oh, you have really black eyes when you're mad." So I'm like, but so that's why I asked that question. But yeah, I've seen, when you have very piercing blue eyes. No offense, but I knew you when you were very young, and now. As you get older,
they've softened.
They
have softened.
Softened is a nice word. Well, it's like, see, that's something I would. My wife has blue eyes, and she as she gets older, they're less piercing, I guess. They're softened.
Right. Yeah. And mine were very gray too, a lot of the time. So, but they're.
You smoke a lot of pot.
But now, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. So that's not why we're here, is it?
Smoking pot. If I'm woefully undersupplied.
As am I. No, we're here to.
We're here to dive into the vortex, but I'm fascinated to hear about that because I was hoping you were going to say that you were at least 1% Klingonese or Vulcanian, but
maybe in Scandinavia, maybe there's some Vulcans from the Scandinavian region.
Well, the guy I went to Wrath of Khan with, he's my friend. I always say he's a Vulcan because he's an architect by trade, and he's very. Well, I'm very Kirk. He's very
logical.
Oh my God! Seriously, if he had a black wig and pointed ears, you would never know. I mean, but he knows it. Like we joked about every Halloween. We're like, all right, this year at my party, I'll be Kirk, you be Spock, and he's always like, and he always says, I'm fine with that, Captain. And I'm like, wow, that is really cool. He could really pass as a great Vulcan.
Awesome.
But it's interesting. So do you think I should try this or?
Absolutely, and I can send you a link, and I would highly just from a history, for your progeny, so they have an idea of where they come from. Just starting that process now will make life a little easier for them as they get a little older.
Well, let me ask you: does it give you? I mean, there's other tests like what is it called?
There's 23andMe.
23andMe. I have a doctor client who says, some of these give really good genetic markers that could point to potential bad things.
This is all about familial history and ancestry.
He had actually told me
it has nothing to do with anything medical.
That's what he told me. He told me the ancestry one is more about if you care about your genealogical. And see, here's the deal. I have a cousin who's traced my dad's side of the family all the way back to the 1700s, maybe earlier than that. So I have a pretty good idea there. And by the way, spoiler alert, they're all basically from Scotland and Germany. That's it.
Interesting.
But there's still the wild card. And then my mom's side, which is probably Irish, but we don't know. So I should check on that. But Van Gelder being a name like that, who knows? I don't know what that is.
It could come from anywhere.
Could be anywhere.
So
I'm going to check that out. We're going to put a link in the show notes. Will you send that to me?
Absolutely, and we'll call. Maybe they'll offer our listeners a discount or something like that.
We'll check into that. And if they don't, well, screw them. But tell you what, if you do this, listeners, tell Ancestry.com the Audio Umox podcast sent you, and we'll go from there. Well, we have see, this is what happens when we go weeks without doing a show. You and I just blather on.
Right.
We really should probably go right into the vortex here.
But first,
the trend.
Okay, you want to start?
Okay. So it being, we're into the middle of September, so I'm enjoying a delicious Oktoberfest in honor of my 21% Western European heritage. This is actually this is a joint effort between the Hofbrau House and friends to the north of me in Wisconsin, in Chippewa Falls, at the Leinenkugel's Brewery.
Oh, Leine. My wife loves Leinenkugel.
So they have partnered to create an Oktoberfest, as well as it's a 150th anniversary of that brewery, and so they created an anniversary blend that I've tried as well. So that's what I have today.
Well, cheers
and you
to them and you. Well, I'm boring. I'm having another martini. I'll just tell you, and it's not even good gin or vodka. It's pretty cheap stuff. I've been on a budget lately. My business has been, I've worked but not made a lot of money, so I'm kind of on my heels. So pretty much a standard martini.
Does it work? Does it do the trick? There you go.
It's doing the trick, my brother. So that's
all right.
That's the Tranya for this episode. So maybe now we should spiral into the vortex.
The vortex, yes. So Odo is at Quark's and shows up.
The Gore-Tex.
and Quark is wearing a beautiful Garrick outfit.
Garrick of Detroit, yes.
So anyway, they have a talk, and Odo's really on Quark's case, thinking that he has something to do with, knows something about the Miradorn Raider that's about to come visit Deep Space Nine. And Quark, of course, flatly denies it until what appear to be the twin great-grandchildren of Grandpa Munster and Ace Frehley.
You're not gonna believe this. I wrote in my notes, the Eddie Munster twins show up. Both wearing stylish chokers, by the way. Did you
They
notice
got chokers that go through the skin.
Ugh, that is gross.
And
That is
the outfits, I was trying to figure it out. Was it's kind of like Ace Frehley. Maybe it's Earth, Wind, and Fire.
I don't know.
Outfit.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't like
I'm
chokers,
not sure, but
first of all, and the idea of a choker.
yeah,
that
especially
goes,
ones that go underneath your carotid artery. That's like a little. That looks a little scary. So
well, I mean, yeah, you don't really want to push the artery out where you're an easy target.
They just give you a handle to just.
Oh, I need my cheap drink again. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, they go to the Hollow Suite and
with Quark and Rom.
Quark and Rom has to fix some drinks, so he grabs the most unattractive old Grapes of Wrath bottle.
It looks like an old Avon bottle from back in the day.
Like
you remember?
Perfume bottle.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's an extra large version of that.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And sneaky Mr. Odo transforms into a little glass on that tray with no one noticing. He's pretty quick.
Yeah, because he's there to sneak in there while they haggle over a cheap thrift store Fabergé egg. It looks frankly like something my 8-year-old daughter put together. It does.
Oh yeah, it was bad. It was bad. It was a Brute by Fabergé egg.
Nice. Well played, sir.
So Nog apparently has the strength of 10 men.
Nog?
Because he picks up the tray.
Rom.
And Rom, sorry. Not
Nog's
Nog,
dead.
Rom. So, yeah. And Odo, he's got to be a couple 100 pounds.
Got to be.
And he's sitting on this tray.
That's a great
disguise
point.
As
there's even a line late in the episode about you're heavier than you look.
Yeah.
Which we'll get to. So I didn't even connect the two. Well played.
Yes. Anyway,
he
carries him in. Yeah. So they start debating over the egg and it was obviously some sort of setup. I couldn't figure out. I still to this day don't know exactly whose side Quark is on because he didn't get paid, so he's not on his side.
Right.
And he didn't make a deal.
Right.
He ends up getting arrested. So.
Right. Well, he gets arrested because Cronut shows up.
Yeah. So he shows up.
Right. A guy who obviously shops at the thrift store in Doug Henning's neighborhood.
And got some melted cheese. You know what he looked like to me? Okay, it's if Chandler Bing somehow landed on another planet in the Gamma Quadrant in the 25th century. So he's Chandler Bing's Star Trek doppelganger.
I'm not. I'm not. What would Chandler Bing have like an effed up face, or is that what you're saying?
Maybe. But after all those drugs.
Well, that's true. But what about what am I right about the Doug Henning outfit? I mean, what was that? What?
Yes, magic is illusion. And illusion is magic.
But my paycheck's not illusion.
Fabergé egg's not illusion. It's my own magic. You hand that egg over. Give me that egg. Okay, so a fight ensues. One of the Miradorn guys gets killed, and Odo gets thrown at a wall, and decides instead of, I guess he can't remain as chips of glass. He can only be a solid piece.
That's what she said.
And so he reconstitutes himself and places everyone under arrest, and does one of those. He does that Thor's mighty hammer on top of people's heads and knocks them down.
And bear it in mind. He hurts their ass because he's very strong.
Yeah, he is.
I mean, he probably cracked some ribs on that dude.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm just saying.
I don't know. Okay, so he quickly places everyone under arrest, calls for help.
Including
Cronut. Okay, so So here's another question, and I don't want to get too far off into the weeds about changelings and the technology, but okay, he can change, and I can understand that the clothing is actually him. That's his flesh.
Correct.
But what about the communicator?
That is another great question, because
so suspend disbelief, I guess. Is that what it is? Just assume that he can form himself into the shape of an electronic item.
That's a great point, because there's so many episodes where they're separated and he needs a weapon or whatever. Well, why can't he just
turn his hand, have guns for hands, just like
or actually finger bang someone literally?
Guns for hands. He could be Odo Scissorhands. He could do paper mache.
Wait, I just made a finger bang joke and you didn't even laugh. You just went right on past it. You literally blew past a literal finger bang joke.
I was thinking of the 21 Pilots joke, which you didn't.
See, I don't know 21.
Because you don't follow them.
What, they're Edward Scissorhands? What?
No, they have a song called Guns for Hands.
Oh, they do?
Yeah, you could do a drop in. Yeah. I'm trying to sleep.
Is that as funny as a finger bang joke? Really?
Probably not. I was just trying to be socially relevant.
You're being au courant.
Yeah. Anyway, in 5. Okay, so now we're all in jail.
And Ron, by the way, I should note, finally gets his real voice.
He doesn't sound as bad, but
bad, but he goes from being snotty to at least Moogie, that he's going more towards Max Grodenchik is finally getting more towards the character at this point. But yeah, you're right. It's kind of like Odo's makeup. It's like Max Grodenchik is almost about one step away from being the Ron we know for the rest of the series, and Odo's makeup is probably about one step away. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, yeah, because Odo, there were a couple of scenes there where his forehead and eyebrow area had jutted out just a bit too much, to where if the camera caught it at a weird angle, he looked like he had a lazy eye or something going on.
That's a good point. All right. So anyway, we're back. Okay. So we're back. Yeah.
We're back. So this guy is in prison. Quark's in prison. There's really no reason to hold him because he didn't buy anything. He didn't sell anything. Actually said he didn't want to or trust the sale of this item.
He's on record, basically. He said
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So he's off the hook. So he gets out. There's no reason to hold him. But the other guy, what is his name?
What, Rom?
No, the
Cronut?
Yeah, Cronut. Yeah, so Cronut is in jail, and they're trying to figure his story out when he pulls out his Saint Christopher, and lo and behold, that thing, it can move. That sucker can move.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it turns into some kind of a key looking thing.
Is Cronut eating like his hungry man in jail?
He is, and at first I thought that was a melamine, but it turns out it's like a stainless steel compartment plate. Something out of the Cub Scout camp or something.
He had even the tin cup to drink.
Yeah. Filthy screw, filthy. He just needs some bars for him to run it against.
Well, that's very good.
So anyway, he starts telling telling bits and pieces of his story and trying to weave a tale that will convince Odo to let him go. But does pique Odo's curiosity with these stories of changelings on his home planet.
Yeah, he just, I had to get past in this episode his unfortunate resemblance to the lead character in Mask with Cher.
Oh. Yes. Yeah, that's good.
I'm
looking at a picture of him right now. As you say that.
Are you Cronut? All right. By the way, I'm not making fun of Rocky. Please. But it's just like, I kept going, why is it, why do I find this apprehensive? And then I realized watching it oh my God, this is Eric Stoltz in Mask. I expected Cher to come in and go, I'm right there. You know,
Chachi.
Chachi, whatever she says. I don't know. See,
Dennis Miller and your Cher are way, way too close. So do your Dennis Miller impression.
Okay, there, Cha-Cha.
Okay, now do your Cher.
I can't do. I'm terrible. I need more of my cheap drink.
Yeah. All right.
Dennis Miller's Cha-Cha and Cher is all. Oh God, I can't do Cher. I'm not.
Excuse me.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Cisco is trying to use this as a first contact opportunity. So he's gets in contact with this guy's home planet. That they want nothing to do.
Yeah, the XR guy?
They built the wall already.
He's like as excitable as Mike Stoops, the assistant coach of Oklahoma University. I mean, he's just all like 0 to 60.
Why'd you even call me?
Yeah, he's like, you know, it's just like, wow.
I'm on the do not call list. Do you not know? Stop spoofing me.
Oh my God. And Cisco's just kind of sitting there in the runabout going, okay, all right, tell you what, we'll be back in 52 hours.
Yeah. Anyway, so that was one of those weird scenes that didn't make a lot of sense.
I mean, seriously, if you're not an Oklahoma University fan, I get it, but I mean, he was totally Mike Stoops. It was just like he was just he was batshit.
Look him up. Look him up. So now they come back, and Dax gave him this look. So there must have been I think there was something that ended up on a scene that ended up on the cutting room floor, or she was just trying to make something out of having no speaking lines in the entire episode.
Make a scene out of nothing, because she had like a whole.
Where she was, she had some phlogiston.
Remember, this is still first
sleeve.
Season. Anybody except for the first couple of leads are up for grabs. I mean, she was probably trying to make a scene out of this.
Yeah. So she pulled something out of an old soap opera or something. Gave that look like there was going to be a conversation later about how, prime directive, balance that prime directive versus, the needs of individual human beings and justice and
it's balance that prime directive, shoot that poison arrow, same thing.
There you go. Yeah. There you go. So they go back. Odo's still, at war with himself over this whole changeling, I'm not alone in the universe thing, and so they decide at that point that Odo's going to be the guy that returns this guy to his home planet to face certain death. However, there's a little problem. That Miradorn remaining twin.
Yeah, Eddie Munster.
Yeah. Eddie Munster, the Corsican brother, because he's lost his twin, completes him, so he has nothing to live for. Is has a death wish for Cronut. So they have to sneak out, and so they basically hug the side of some kind of transport vessel in order to get out without being detected. And so they do that, and then Odo and Cronut are on their way to this homeworld.
Right. And
then they decide.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm just saying, Cronut, he's starting to look mighty good because he's all delicious and got. But he's got like a layer of glaze on him.
He does have a glazed look about him.
There you go.
Yeah. Oh, and then. How they do the makeup, yet have him have a 5 o'clock shadow. I found that a little. He had some stubble.
Did he? I didn't catch that.
Yeah.
Fairly repulsed by it. I couldn't look at it. It just looked too weird to me. It was
candle wax.
It just it didn't work for me. But you got past it because to the actor Cliff DeYoung's credit, he's a good actor. You could see past the makeup after a point.
I agree. Yeah, I did find him. Not to jump too far ahead, but I was a very empathetic character. I felt a lot for him being this, a guy caught up in circumstances in a in what appeared to be some kind of a civil war or a fascist type regime. Start getting closer to that planet when the remaining Miradorn raider catches up to the runabout. It's blowing it to shreds because it's down to 40% shields in 2 or 3 phaser hits or whatever he's shooting at him. And so they decide to go into this ion asteroid belt.
Can I ask a question? Why did the runabout warn them they were in proximity of another vessel? It was like
I don't know. And it was talking in slow motion. It said, took about 15 seconds for them to get to the point of saying, yeah, you're under attack and you're at 41% shield capacity.
Yeah, like normally I may chalk it up to, as Odo relates, I'm not a combat pilot. I'm a pilot, but I'm not a combat pilot, that maybe he didn't set the computer to warn me a potential attack.
I think that would be the default setting is...
Yeah. I'm retconning this in the wrong way, aren't I?
I would say, I don't know. It did not make sense to me either, but they take evasive maneuvers. Cronut takes the helm through this ion field.
VORTEX. Which looks a lot like the Mutara Nebula, which is on my mind after watching Wrath of Khan. Can I just... I'm sorry to interrupt, but can I just say that it was beautiful?
Nebula in general?
The VORTEX, as they called it, but it was basically a nebula.
Yeah.
It was gorgeous. They did a nice job, a really nice job special effects-wise.
Yeah.
For 1993, they did a really nice job.
Right. Yeah, very, very
This
nice.
is 11 years after Wrath of Khan, which was revolutionary, but this was very next step in that.
Now, didn't Khan feature the first all CGI scene?
Oh my God! Yes, the Genesis video is all the first computer-generated scene in any motion picture ever.
Yeah. So
that's a good trivia.
So, and in a short 10 years or so, they went from that being a first to large swaths of a TV show on a fraction of the budget doing the same type of work.
Yeah, I mean,
it's pretty miraculous.
It's a great point because, just as an aside, DS9 was the first one to really get into the kind of battles with multiple starships that fans have been hungry for since the original series, but they just didn't have the budget to do. But they did it through computer-generated graphics. So yeah, exactly. So you're very right. So I just wanted to say that as I watched this, especially fresh on my experience of watching Wrath of Khan again at the theater. Bless you. I kept watching the VORTEX and going, oh my God, this is like the Mutara Nebula. This is beautiful. Really, very, very well done. And they're going through some pockets of volatile gas, and we've all been there.
Absolutely. Absolutely we have. So they don't want to ignite the gas.
No, nor do we.
No blue flame, and they don't want to be detected. So they kind of spin out and land on an asteroid. It turns out that was an intended detour in order to recover Cronut's daughter, right?
Oh, well, yeah. Did you, before we got there, what did you think of that shot of the runabout by the cave? I've just complimented them on how great the VORTEX looked,
then it looked like a scene from Space 1999.
It was like a diorama I did at the state fair when I was in junior high. It was like a model stuck on a bunch of styrofoam rocks, and there's the cave. It totally, almost totally wiped out all of the goodwill I'd given him for the VORTEX because it looked so fake.
It was pretty cheesy. Yeah, I agree. But it was a short shot. Then they go into the Cave of Wonders. They open up this thing in Cronut.
And it's Cronut.
Yeah, stasis
son.
Chamber and Cronut's daughter.
Excuse me, the donut hole.
Yeah, is in there, and so start getting fired upon on the asteroid. A rock falls and hits Odo, and then Cronut's got a
he's got to make a decision. But before we get Odo gets clocked by a rock and knocked out, and that was to me surprising for a couple of things. He's a changeling.
Why didn't he just turn into liquid and the rock goes through him, or turn into an even bigger rock and it just bounces off? I don't know.
Right, okay, so let's assume that whatever shape he's in, if he gets hit, he assumes the characteristics, therefore he can be knocked out. Let's assume that, okay?
Okay.
So he's knocked out.
Yeah.
Why, when he's unconscious, does he retain his shape as a humanoid?
Doesn't turn into his natural state.
You mean a massive goo?
A goo, yes.
Thank you, Q.
I don't know. You got me.
Are we once again supposed to
suspend disbelief?
I guess we are.
You just go in.
Just saying.
Yeah, there's a few things that don't make sense there.
Right.
But so Cronut, he briefly thinks I could go, I can get away, and then he changes his mind. I think probably seeing his daughter there, he makes the right choice, and he helps him, despite the fact that he could have just walked away.
We have daughters.
Yeah.
What would you have done? Would you have walked away?
I don't know. I pray I'm never faced with that kind of situation where I can either do the wrong thing and spend my life on the run with my kids, or do the right thing and be killed while my kids are taken care of. I don't know. It's a Kobayashi.
It is a Kobayashi, and that's a great point. And I'll leave it there too, because I don't know. But I mean, I'd like to believe that I would be like Cronut, and my first thought would be, screw you, I'm going to take care of my kid. But then my second thought immediately would be, like Cronut, would be, wait a minute, this cat has totally helped us out here, and I can't leave him.
Right.
And maroon him on this planet. So, yeah.
Right.
Anyway, all right, so go ahead.
There you go. So they get on the runabout, and Odo comes to, and Cronut says, something along the lines of, I regret the decision already. And anyway, so they're flying through, and Odo's got this brilliant idea to light up the farts in the nebula, and so he gets on the edge of the nebula, lures the Mirador. Is that right?
Miradorn. Like Michael Dorn.
Miradorn, yeah. Okay, the Miradorn Raider.
Yeah, who will play? Yeah, he plays.
Into firing, and they beat feet out of there, and the guy blows himself up in a giant blue flame. And
we've all been there as well.
And then as soon as they get out, they're accosted by this Vulcan science vessel that's on its way back to Vulcan.
I love that, by the way. I'd forgotten that.
And they hitch a ride.
And and Odo says, "All right, fine.
I regret this decision. I regret this decision already." And so there you go, a life for a life, and on they go.
Yeah. So yeah, they're doomed to eat plum-eek soup for the rest of their lives.
Yeah. Or no, I think as long as they stay in the Alpha Quadrant, they'll be all right. And then I think there was an interesting point, which is even though they're in exile and renegades, there's certainly a possibility that truth and sanity and sound judgment will prevail on that planet, and it will come back to some sense of normalcy, and he can return to the planet with his daughter.
I think that's incredibly optimistic, considering
it is
our own
it
planet.
is.
But you know what? I'll go with that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, think of the South Africa. Use that as an example.
That's
so
a great point.
You went through this time of upheaval and apartheid, and Nelson Mandela in prison, and he went from that to being the president. So it's regime change happens, and sometimes cooler, sound, sane minds do prevail, and that's my hope, and I think that's Roddenberry's hope for the universe as well.
That's true. Good point.
Yeah.
I like it.
So.
All right then.
All right.
Well, let me ask you.
Yes.
Let's get this out of the way, because I'm pretty sure I know the answer. Deep Sex 9 in this episode?
I saw nothing.
There's no deep sex in this one.
There's nothing.
Zero.
There's an angry silent Dax. I think
Kira gets like a couple of lines in, but that's it.
Oh, because she's in the room with Miles and Cisco, right? And that's it. So I would say there's nothing.
There's no deep sex. The funny bit to me, by the way, there's a funny bit in there, which we haven't branded as a funny bit. But do you remember like when they're all in Odo's
the Morn
joke? Yeah, but I mean, by the way, yeah, we should state that's where they start stating the whole inside joke about Morn, who's like based on the anagram of Norm on Cheers. But he talks too much, but you never hear him utter. You do hear him laugh once. You don't hear him utter a word though.
Right.
And he's in the show for the whole 7 seasons. But no, when they're all in the security office, everybody's in there, and Quark keeps trying to walk out, and the doors won't open, and he keeps like kind of waving his hands like trying to open the door, and he can't get out. It's very brief. You got to really pay attention because I kept watching it. He kept waving his hands and turning back, going, come on, So that was funny to me. But yeah, there's no deep sex.
No.
There's nothing sexy about this episode. Okay, well, let's do a wrap up. I mean, are there any final thoughts before we get to Latinum, or do you want to go straight to Latinum?
No. I mean, we could do both at the same time. Do Latinum and thoughts. The reason for the Latinum are my thoughts, right? Okay. Something like that.
Do you want to take it off? How many bars of Latinum do you give the episode?
Yeah, I would over 3, but under 4. So call it 3.5.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah, and for a couple reasons, it did reveal some things about Odo's character.
True.
I thought that was good from a character building standpoint. It really said something about his desire to find his kind, his real true feelings of loneliness, despite being with many others, but because he doesn't know anything about his history. And so I found that nice from a character building standpoint. The general story though wasn't too unpredictable, or there was no super interesting plots. I found the character to be relatable and to be interesting. Of Cronut. That he drew me in. I found him a little challenging to look at maybe, but he drew me in, and I could really feel for him, especially towards the end there. I was like, let's find a way without violating any personal ethics or anything to let him get away or go or do something, and it worked out. So that was good. I enjoyed it.
I would agree, and it's funny because I had not watched this particular episode. I'd glossed over it. I'd watched it when it originally came out, but then I had glossed over it over the years because for whatever reason, it didn't really strike me as being one I wanted to watch a lot. Yeah. And having watched it again to make some notes for the show, you're right. Cliff DeYoung's performance is actually very nuanced and well done, and so is, by the way, also is René Auberjonois. His portrayal of Odo, you're starting to get something beyond the artifice, something beyond the I am serious, I'm Odo,
right. I will solve the crime.
Right, I am Inspector Javert. No, what you are getting is that he is this being who is intensely lonely.
Yeah.
And the reason the law is his friend is because that is the only friend he has.
Right.
Justice is the only friend Odo has. And they open the door, a crack into Odo. And that alone, right? So Cliff DeYoung's Cronut character he is the guy who puts the doorstop in there where you can get a kind of, pardon for the tortured metaphor, but he's the doorstop where you can get a peek into Odo's true sadness and psyche, and it's just
maybe that key that he had around his neck is the metaphor. It was the key to Odo.
Even better. And his, as Odo calls him, cousin. He's not a fully formed changeling, but he's obviously a cousin. The key that Cronut wears to get into his daughter's stasis tube. So that sounded bad, but it's not what I mean. And
I know.
That's you're kind of sick for laughing. All right. Anyway, so I found the makeup to be off-putting.
Yes.
Didn't care for it. I did think it reminded me. Okay, I've made jokes, and I'm sorry about Mask, but it did. So
it was kind of like melted candle wax or something. Yeah. I think some of that was the color because he was so kind of pale. It just didn't have any life to it. And the Miradorns were the same way, even though they didn't have the melted wax on their face. They were all this pale, whitey, grayish
with a creepy
kind of
choker.
Color. Yeah, and I agree. That was kind of off-putting.
It took me out of it a little bit. I think, and it gets better, but I think Star Trek over the years realized, okay, look, we're going to go with, as our friends from another podcast call it, the loaf, the meatloaf. They stick some crap on the actor's face to say, okay, we're an alien. I think it's made very clear that if Star Trek really wanted to become aliens, they'd be more Lovecraftian, tentacled creatures that you couldn't. But the problem with that is audiences have a hard time relating to them.
To the humanity.
Right. See, this is the thing, and I may have said it before previously in a previous episode. The critics of Star Trek who say all the aliens just look like humans with shit glued to their forehead. Well, here's the thing. If all the aliens look like a completely different form of life like Carl Sagan said they would, which is probably true, where they're just basically a bowl of goo, well, how are you going to relate to their issues? How is that as an... You got to remember, Star Trek also has to play as a drama and theatrically. And if the audience... I was an actor for many years. I was a director. I'm a writer. I can tell you, if the audience cannot connect with what you're trying to show them, then you failed. And it doesn't matter if it's scientifically correct. Guess what? Things that are scientifically correct are not that exciting.
Yeah, that's true. Well, and I think of, like in the original series, the one where there was the mining thing with the rocks and Spock was able to communicate.
The
there you go.
Right.
Yeah, the
Devil
Horta.
in the Dark.
You had that one, and it was a rock, So that. And then in the Next Generation, there was one where it was little blips of light or whatever. There was the silica beings.
But it was harder to take it seriously, wasn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
The Horta looked like a piece of pepperoni pizza gliding across the screen. I mean, I was a little kid. I was not scared by the Horta. I should have been because it was killing all these people, but I kept saying, that looks like a Totino's pizza roll or whatever. It just...
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm saying is that Cliff DeYoung transcended the makeup.
Yeah.
The writing transcended the makeup.
Yeah.
And I think it's a lot to ask of the audience, though, to expect them to constantly do that. So I think that's why Star Trek settled into we're going to do subtle variations. Vulcans have pointed ears and funny haircuts. Romulans have pointed ears and funny haircuts. Klingons have ridges and they smell bad. They make these distinctions, and that was it. And I appreciate that because the writing has to sell it and the acting has to sell it. The makeup should support the writing and the acting. That's my opinion. Okay, so I'm going to get off my soapbox here. But I'm just trying to say...
So how many bars you got?
I'm going to give it straight up 3 bars of Gold Press Platinum on this episode. Right. And I will tell you right now, going into it, having not watched it in a few years, I was like, this is another 2-bar episode. No, it's a 3-bar episode. If not for any other reason other than the things you said, which is we get an insight into Odo. But I'm going to give more because, and nobody grows in this episode except Odo.
Mm-hmm.
But we have a really nice performance from a supporting actor with Cliff DeYoung. And Randy Oglesby, who plays both Miradorns, he shows up in Trek many times. He's played several characters in several different Star Trek series, and he does a fine job as well. So he didn't have a lot to work with in this particular episode, but he does nice work. So that's where I'm going to go with that. So it's 3 bars, no deep sex, and that's where I am.
All right. Very good.
Yeah. And man, what an episode of this we've done. An episode of Audio Umox. My God.
All right. So next week, what do we have planned?
Battle Lines.
Battle Lines?
Yes.
Okay. Very good.
Well, this is one where Mike Ehrmantraut from Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul is locked in mortal combat on a planet of eternal war where it's impossible for the combatants to die. But, of course, that doesn't prevent Kai Opaka from meeting her end.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah, that's your battle lines. You know, I kind of want to pick like a good rule of acquisition every week to kind of end on. And
okay,
you know, not every episode of DS9 is going to be primo, especially these early episodes. And not every episode of Audio Umox is going to be primo because we suck sometimes. But you know, the 19th rule of acquisition gets me here, and that is, excuse me. Satisfaction is not guaranteed. And that's from Legends of the Ferengi, which is a DS9 novel, which I happen to own. So that's my rule of acquisition for this week.
Very good.
Okay, I am pretty satisfied, and I'm ready. So.
All right. Well, why don't we wrap it up here, because I think we've had some subspace frequency issues.
Yeah, I think that Miradorn Raider hit my computer with a blue flame.
That damn Michael Dorn, I swear. We'll catch up to him one of these days. All right. Well, hey, man, this has been great getting back to you. And
yeah, it's been
just
fun.
To finish it up, so excited to have you back listening with us. Don't forget, this is our 13th episode. Don't forget my challenge to you. We've had 2 reviews on iTunes. If we can get, 8 more before Halloween?
That's right.
We will start a Facebook page, and John Christopher will design a special giveaway Star Trek Deep Space Nine Audio Umox t-shirt. But we got to have that by Halloween, so get on it. You don't have much time. You've got about a month and a half from this recording. So I want everybody to know that I've got a link up on the show notes along with the Ancestry.com link. There's a link in the show notes that tells you exactly how to do a iTunes review for a podcast. It makes it so easy peasy. I want to thank, by the way, Michael Finney, one of our great friends on Twitter who listens to us and also comments a lot on @Umox Podcast on Twitter. I want to thank him for suggesting that we put a tutorial up for people so they can make it easier for them to leave us a review. And I want to thank him for his support and for retweeting. I want to thank also a couple of other fans like Zufster and Soylent Greenwood and a couple of others who are big fans. Euro Satan is a good fan, by the way. He's pretty cool. I'm sure I'm missing somebody, but keep retweeting and keep commenting and liking, and we'll mention you in future episodes. Do I have anything else I've left out, John?
I think that's it, Simon.
All right, then.
Yeah, until next week.
Yeah, until next week. I think we've lubed up some lobes, don't you?
I think so. We may have worn through some of that lube after this amount of time, but yeah, it's been great, and I will talk to you next time, Simon.
Sounds great, John. I'm Simon Van Gelder. He is
Captain John Christopher.
And until next time, the docking ring is closed.
Of course, the Lexus Golden Opportunity Sales Event is about exceptional offers, but it's also about the luxury of versatility and the freedom of a summer day coming together for you at the perfect moment.
Lease the 2019 NX300 all-wheel drive for $369 a month for 36 months with $29.99 to its signing. Experience amazing at your New York, New Jersey, Connecticut Lexus dealer. Call 1-800-USA-LEXUS for important lease offer and pricing details. Not all customers will qualify. Offer valid in the Lexus Eastern area only and ends July 31st, 2019.
When one thinks of the deli, the sunny shores of Waikiki don't typically come to mind. But Boar's Head is anything but typical. Introducing our new bold Aloha Sunshine Turkey. Sweet, savory, and dare we say, tropical. Coated in a savory pineapple-flavored glaze. It's a taste of Polynesian paradise right at your deli. Bon appetit, bon voyage, and of course, aloha. Bold Aloha Sunshine Turkey. Available fresh from the deli and only from Boar's Head. Compromise elsewhere.